Have you ever wondered why your grandfather could grow tomatoes the size of softballs with almost zero effort, while today we spend a fortune on special soils and fertilizers just to get a few sad vegetables? What if I told you that the entire modern gardening industry is built on a lie? Today, we are uncovering a closely guarded secret from the year 1943, a method so incredibly powerful that it can literally triple your harvest in a single season. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at dirt, fertilizer, or your backyard garden the same way again. We are going to expose the hidden truth about why the giant agricultural corporations intentionally erase this knowledge from the history books. Let us know in the comments right now. Do you use chemical fertilizers in your garden, or do you try to stay natural? Tell the truth. There is no judgment here. Now let us dig into the secret. To understand this massive cover-up, we have to travel back to a very specific moment in history. The year was 1943. The world was completely consumed by the Second World War. Global supply chains were entirely broken. Everyday citizens were facing severe food shortages and strict rationing. Governments around the world urged normal people to plant victory gardens in their backyards, empty lots, and even on rooftops. But there was a massive catch. There were absolutely no commercial fertilizers available to the public. All the factories that could produce chemical elements were strictly dedicated to making explosives and munitions for the war effort. People were forced to grow massive amounts of food using nothing but the raw power of nature. And out of this intense desperation, brilliant agricultural minds and everyday farmers perfected a biological system of growing. It was cheap, it was self-sustaining, and it produced mind-blowing amounts of nutrient-dense food. But as soon as the war ended, the massive chemical factories suddenly lost their government contracts. They needed a new market for their nitrates. And that is exactly when the great brainwashing of the modern gardener began. Let us start by looking at exactly what happened when the war ended. The chemical companies had mountains of raw materials and massive factories. They quickly realized that the same nitrogen used to make explosives could be repurposed to make plants grow incredibly fast. So they packaged it in bright, shiny bags and sold it to the public as a modern miracle. They launched massive advertising campaigns telling people that the old ways of farming were dirty, slow, and totally backward. But here is the part they left out. This fast-acting synthetic nitrogen acts like a dangerous sugar rush for your plants. It pumps them full of water and forces them to grow huge green leaves very quickly. But beneath the surface, it is completely destroying the natural structure of the soil. It is a brilliant business model because it makes you entirely dependent on their products, year after year. Let us debunk the myth right now that plants need chemical powder to grow big. They do not. They just need a living soil system. So, what exactly is the 1943 secret? The foundation of this lost method is something called the living soil food web. During the early 1940s, pioneers like Lady Eve Balfour published groundbreaking research proving that soil is not just dead dirt. It is a bustling, microscopic city. In a single handful of healthy soil, there are more living organisms than there are human beings on planet Earth. These bacteria, fungi, and microscopic bugs are the true workers in your garden. The 1943 method focuses entirely on feeding these invisible workers rather than trying to feed the plant directly. When you pour chemical fertilizer on your garden, you're essentially firing all the natural workers. The synthetic salts in modern fertilizers literally burn and kill these beneficial microbes. Over time, your soil becomes a lifeless sponge that can do nothing but hold the expensive chemical water you pour into it. You become trapped in a very expensive cycle. The first major component of this secret is a rapid, high-heat composting method that was perfected out of pure wartime necessity. People think making compost takes a full year and smells terrible. That is a modern myth spread by companies who want you to buy bagged compost at the store. In 1943, they used a very specific ratio of carbon to nitrogen materials. They would mix 3 parts dry brown leaves or straw with 1 part green grass clippings or kitchen scraps. By turning this pile frequently and keeping it damp, they could create rich black garden gold in just 18 days. This rapid hot compost does not just provide nutrients, it breeds billions of the exact beneficial bacteria your plants desperately crave. Imagine adding a highly trained army of microscopic chefs to your garden. Their only job is to break down minerals and hand feed them directly to the roots of your vegetables. Now let us talk about the real magic hidden in this system. It involves a massive underground network called mycorrhizal fungi. Think of this fungi as a high-speed internet connection for your plants. In a healthy 1943-style garden, these fungal threads attach themselves to the roots of your vegetables. They stretch out for miles underground, connecting every single plant in the area. When a tomato plant is thirsty, it sends a chemical signal through this fungal internet. The fungi then pull water and rare minerals from deep underground and deliver it straight to the tomato. In exchange, the tomato gives the fungi a little bit of sugar. It is a perfect, beautiful trade. But here is the shocking truth. The moment you spray a standard chemical weed killer or synthetic fertilizer, you instantly disconnect this internet. You leave your plants totally isolated, weak, and completely dependent on you to bring them food and water. This brings us to the second core principle of the 1943 method. It is called intensive high-density companion planting. Modern garden centres tell you to plant vegetables in neat, straight rows with miles of bare dirt between them. This is terrible advice. Nature absolutely hates bare dirt. If you look at a forest, there is no bare dirt anywhere. When the sun beats down on empty soil, it bakes the life out of it and evaporates all the water. During the war, people did not have space to waste. They planted densely, mixing different types of plants right on top of each other. They would plant tall corn, climbing beans, and sprawling squash, all in the exact same square foot. The tall plants provided a structure to climb. The beans pulled free nitrogen straight out of the air and put it into the soil, and the squash acted like a living blanket, keeping the soil cool and perfectly moist. By packing plants closely together, using this companion method, you create a microclimate. You can easily test this yourself. On a hot summer day, put your hand on some bare dirt exposed to the sun. It is burning hot. Now slide your hand under a thick canopy of leaves. It is easily 20 degrees cooler and feels damp. The 1943 secret understood that preserving moisture was the key to unlocking massive growth. Because they did not have access to endless running city water, they had to trap every drop of rain. This dense planting also creates a massive confusion for garden pests. Bugs find your vegetables by using smell. When you have 20 identical cabbages in a perfect row, it is like a giant neon sign for cabbage moths. But when you mix onions, marigolds, garlic and cabbage all together, the bugs get incredibly confused. The smell is too chaotic. They fly right past your garden looking for an easier target. But what about the massive size of the vegetables? How did they triple the harvest without steroid-like chemicals? The answer is the third core element of the secret. We call it deep mineral balancing. You see, plants need more than just nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are just the top 3 elements listed on the front of every fertilizer bottle. But plants actually need over 70 different trace minerals to reach their true genetic potential. Things like zinc, copper, manganese, and boron. In the 1940s, farmers used totally free, local resources to mineralize their soil. A fantastic example of this is the use of simple wood ash from the fireplace and crushed up rocks from local quarries. They would lightly dust the garden beds with these free materials. The microscopic workers in the compost would eat this rock dust and turn it into highly available plant food. This creates cell walls so thick and strong that plants literally burst with massive fruits. Let us dive deeper into the economics of your local garden centre to show you why this is suppressed. It is a brilliant, evil business loop. First, they sell you a bag of chemical fertilizer. This fertilizer pumps your plant full of watery growth, but weakens its actual immune system. Because the plant is weak and stressed, it sends out a distress signal. Garden pests like aphids and beetles actually have special sensors to detect weak, chemically treated plants. Nature sends bugs to destroy sick plants. It is natural selection. So, the bugs attack your beautiful, weak tomatoes. You panic and go back to the garden centre. What do? They sell you a bottle of toxic pesticide to kill the bugs. You spray the pesticide, which drips onto the soil and kills your beneficial microbes. Now your soil is totally dead, and your plant needs more food, so you have to buy more fertilizer. They sell you the problem, and then they sell you the cure. It is a perfect trap. The 1943 method completely shatters this trap. When you build the soil food web, your plants develop superhuman immunity. It is a proven biological fact that bugs cannot digest complex plant sugars. When a plant is grown in deeply mineralized living soil, its internal sap becomes extremely thick and sugary, a process measured on a brick scale. If a bug takes a bite out of a truly healthy, naturally grown leaf, the high sugar content acts like alcohol to the bug. It gets completely sick and leaves the plant alone. This is why you never see massive pest outbreaks destroying old growth forests. Nature protects its strongest players by simply shifting your focus from feeding the plant to feeding the soil dirt. You eliminate the need for pesticides entirely. You are literally growing an invisible shield around your garden. And the industry is terrified that you might figure this out. Let us talk about the actual taste of the food. Have you ever bought a shiny red tomato from the supermarket, brought it home, sliced it open, and realised it tastes exactly like wet cardboard? There is a very specific reason for that. Modern commercial vegetables are grown for travel, not for nutrition or taste. They are bloated with chemical water, so they look heavy on the grocery scale. The flavours and aromas in a fruit are created by secondary compounds. These compounds are only produced when a plant absorbs a wide spectrum of complex minerals from living soil. When you use the 1943 technique, the taste difference will shock your system. Your tomatoes will be rich, tangy, and sweet. Your carrots will taste like actual candy. This is because they are packed with true nutritional density. You are quite literally growing medicine in your backyard instead of just empty water balloons. So how do you actually start making this switch right now? The first step is to stop making the biggest mistake in gardening. You must stop tilling and digging up your soil every single spring. Remember that underground fungal internet we talked about? Every time you take a rototiller or a shovel and aggressively turn over the dirt, you are taking a giant pair of scissors and cutting all those vital internet cables. You are destroying the microscopic city. The 1943 secret relies on a no-dig approach. Instead of digging down, you always build up. You simply layer your organic matter, your compost, and your old leaves directly on top of the soil. Just like trees dropping their leaves in the forest, the earthworms will naturally come up, eat the layers, and pull the nutrients deep down into the root zone for you. Let the worms do the hard labour. You save your back, and you save the soil network. Another critical piece of this puzzle is the 1943 watering strategy. Almost everyone waters their garden completely wrong. People love to go out every single evening with a hose and give their plants a light, gentle sprinkle. This is a massive mistake. When you only wet the top 1 inch of the soil, the plant roots become incredibly lazy. They stay right at the surface because they know you are going to bring the water to them every day. But what happens when you go on vacation or there is a massive heat wave? The top inch dries out and your lazy plants die instantly. The secret is to water very deeply, but very rarely. You want to soak the ground with gallons of water and then not water again for almost a week. This forces the plant roots to dive deep down into the earth searching for natural moisture. They grow massive root systems. A plant with a deep root system is practically immune to drought. Let us explore an incredible example of this deep rooting. During the war, people did not have the time to baby their gardens. They were working in factories and dealing with air raids. They implemented a technique called trench composting right inside the garden rows. They would dig a deep trench next to where the tomatoes would go. They filled this trench with raw kitchen scraps, old paper, and whatever organic waste they had. Then they buried it. As the season progressed, the plant roots would smell this deep reservoir of rotting food and moisture. The roots would aggressively grow toward the trench. The rotting scraps acted like a slow-release sponge, holding massive amounts of water and nutrients deep underground. The plants practically put themselves on autopilot. They tripled in size because they had a constant, unlimited buffet underground that never dried out, even in the dead of summer. You might be wondering what happens if I have already ruined my soil with chemicals. Is it too late? Absolutely not. Nature is incredibly forgiving, but you have to be prepared for the transition period. If you stop using chemical fertilizers cold turkey today, your garden might actually look a little sad for the first 30 days. This is basically a withdrawal period. Your plants have forgotten how to forage for real food because they have been fed through an artificial IV tube their whole lives. The soil microbes are dead, so there is nobody there to feed the plants naturally. This is the moment most people panic and run back to the store to buy more blue powder. Do not do it. You must stay strong. During this time, you heavily apply your homemade hot compost and water it in well. Within 4 weeks, the microbial populations will explode back to life. The system will reset, and explosive natural growth will begin. To really supercharge this recovery, you can make something the old-timers called compost tea. This is not the tea you drink. It is a powerful biological brew. You take a big handful of your best, richest compost and put it in a mesh bag. You hang it in a 5-gallon bucket of water. Then you add a small spoonful of blackstrap molasses. The molasses is pure sugar. You let it sit for 2 days and stir it vigorously to add oxygen. That sugar causes the beneficial bacteria to multiply by the billions. 1 cup of compost suddenly turns into an ocean of life. You then take this liquid and spray it directly onto the leaves of your sick plants and pour it onto the soil. It acts like an instant probiotic shot for your garden. The leaves absorb the nutrients directly, and the good bacteria actually eat the bad fungal diseases that try to attack the plant. It is a completely free, organic miracle spray. Now we have to talk about weeds. The chemical industry loves to sell you endless bottles of toxic weed killers. They have convinced the world that a good garden looks like a sterile hospital room, with perfectly clean brown dirt between the plants. But in the 1943 system, weeds are not your enemy. They are actually diagnostic tools. Different weeds only grow in specific soil conditions. If you have tons of dandelions, your soil is likely heavily compacted. The dandelion grows a huge taproot to break up the hard dirt. It is nature trying to heal the damage. Instead of poisoning the weed, which poisons the soil, you use it. You pull the weed, chop it up, and drop it right back on the soil surface to decompose. You are returning the exact minerals that weed mined out of the deep earth back to the topsoil. It is free fertilizer. By keeping the ground covered with chopped weeds or thick straw mulch, new weeds cannot get any sunlight to grow. This brings us to the concept of true garden independence. The real reason this knowledge was erased is that it takes money out of the system. Imagine a world where millions of people do not need to buy fertilizer, do not need to buy pesticides, and do not need to buy weed killer. Imagine if everyone simply looped their kitchen waste and yard waste back into the soil to create endless abundance. The billion-dollar mega-corporations would go bankrupt overnight. They rely on your ignorance to survive. By practicing the 1943 method, you are doing more than just growing a few big tomatoes. You are taking back your independence. You are stepping completely outside of a broken, toxic system. You are rebuilding the topsoil that took nature thousands of years to create and doing it in just a few short seasons. This is why this information is so incredibly important to share. Let us quickly address seed saving, because it ties directly into this massive harvest secret. When you buy hybrid seeds from giant seed conglomerates today, they are genetically designed to perform well only when pumped full of chemical fertilizers. Furthermore, many of them are designed not to produce viable seeds for the next year. You have to buy new seeds every single spring. In 1943, people saved heirloom seeds. When you grow an heirloom tomato in your specific biological soil and you save the seeds from the absolute biggest, healthiest tomato, an amazing thing happens. That seed actually contains the genetic memory of your specific garden. It remembers the local weather, the local bugs, and the local soil microbes. When you plant it the next year, it grows even stronger and produces even more fruit. Within 3 years of saving your own seeds in living soil, you create a super strain of vegetables perfectly adapted to your backyard. So let us put this all together into an actionable plan you can start tomorrow. First, stop buying chemicals and throw away any toxic sprays in your shed. Second, start a hot compost pile using the 3-to-1 ratio of brown leaves to green scraps. Third, stop tilling your garden and start layering organic matter right on top. Fourth, plant your vegetables tightly together in mixed groups to confuse the bugs and shade the soil. Fifth, water your garden deeply just once a week to force massive root systems. And finally, let the earthworms and the invisible soil food web do all the hard work for you. It requires a mindset shift. You are no longer just a vegetable grower. You are a soil farmer. If you take care of the microscopic city beneath your feet, the plants will automatically take care of themselves. The results will absolutely speak for themselves when your neighbours are begging to know your secret. The transition might feel strange at first. We are so conditioned to want to buy a product to fix a problem. Yellow leaves, buy a spray. Bugs, buy a powder. The 1943 secret requires patience and trust in natural biology. But once that fungal internet connects, and once those bacterial armies reach full strength, the explosion of growth is truly something to witness. You will see vines heavy with fruit. You will see vibrant dark green leaves that literally shine in the sun. And most importantly, you will taste the raw, unadulterated power of true nutrient density. This is how farming was always meant to be. It is not a new fad or a trendy internet hack. It is the ancient, forgotten baseline of planetary life, refined during a time of extreme human need, and it is entirely yours to reclaim, right now, in your own backyard, for absolutely $0. And there you have it. The real reason the agricultural giants want you to stay totally dependent on their expensive chemical drips. By returning to the 1943 methods of building the living soil food web, honouring the fungal networks, and ditching the synthetic poisons, you are going to see explosive triple-sized harvests that taste incredible. What a massive twist, right? The ultimate secret to growing an unstoppable garden was never a product you could buy in a plastic bottle. It was simply getting out of nature's way and letting the microscopic world do its job. I want to thank you so much for watching and for opening your mind to a better way of growing. If this video changed the way you look at your backyard, please hit that subscribe button and smash the like button so this suppressed knowledge can reach more people. And I have a question for you to answer in the comments. What is the one vegetable you have always struggled to grow, and how are you going to use these soil secrets to fix it this season? Let us chat in the comments section below.